ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, September the 9th. Kind of want to cover a lot of topics this morning, from the latest on sea surface temperatures around the world, an update on the tropical scene here, and we'll talk again about this widespread chill that's now kind of focused in on the eastern part of the nation. Let's start off here by looking at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies. There are a few interesting areas I want to really highlight here. First of all, we have basically a La Nina type of pattern here out across the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. That is showing up here in blue, below normal sea surface temperatures, and that is likely to continue through the fall and into the winter season. I do believe that we'll probably head into the winter season with weak La Nina conditions. After that, it may evolve into more of a neutral signal by the second half of the winter season. I'm starting to focus in on the winter outlook here, and that is one of the key factors I like to look at, specifically what is expected across the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. This being the west coast of South America right here, and a pretty large area of below normal temperatures. Now, let me just clear that page right there and point out a couple of interesting areas. First of all, right here you notice one part of the Pacific Ocean, specifically the far eastern Pacific Ocean, warmer than normal. That's actually been quite active in recent days. The eastern Pacific Ocean is now almost near normal with respect to that accumulated cyclone energy that we often show here. We showed in yesterday's video, for example. But the eastern Pacific Ocean is the one area where there has been a decent amount of activity over the past several days. And you notice that is one of the few areas in the tropical Pacific with above normal water temperatures. Now, another area of interest. Right here you notice this little blue area right here. Let me circle that for right now, and then I'll kind of clear the page. That is still left over from Hurricane Erin several weeks ago, that passed over this part of the western Atlantic Ocean at a slow pace. And when hurricanes move at a slow pace, they certainly can produce some upwelling, assuming they're over the water. And upwelling is a process that brings colder water from way down underneath to the surface. So this is actually cooler than normal water that's been sitting around since the passage of Hurricane Erin a few weeks ago. Now, can we still get some activity in the Atlantic Basin? Absolutely. We still have about a half of the season left here. The climatological peak is right around this time of the year, right around September 10th or so, of course, give or take a few days. But notice here we have warmer than normal conditions in the Gulf, in the Caribbean here, and in much of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. That should be a favorable factor for the formation of tropical storms. And in the second half of the tropical season, you often see the development of what I call homegrown type systems that do not track all the way westward from the Africa west coast. Instead, they sometimes form on their own over places in this part of the Atlantic Basin, let's say the southwestern Atlantic, the Caribbean, or the Gulf region. They do not necessarily have to move all the way across here, and especially that's the case, again, during the second half of the tropical season in the Atlantic Basin. Watch out for homegrown systems that just form over this part of the Atlantic Basin. We have a possibility of that next week and beyond for some systems that do not track westward from Africa, but instead form in this part of the Atlantic Basin. And notice also very interesting area of warmer than normal conditions out across the higher latitudes, the middle latitudes in this case, with warm sea surface temperatures all the way across the northern Pacific Ocean. Now here's an interesting map I want to show, put out by meteorologist Dr. Ryan Maui on X, and it shows the change in the sea surface temperatures from this January to August time period minus last year's January to August time period. So basically we're looking at yearly change in sea surface temperatures, and a lot of blue showing up here. In other words, water temperatures almost around the globe are cooling off from a year ago. The interesting part about what's been going on over the past year is, let's say, this area right here, the tropical region. You have a lot of cooling off right around the tropical area here, especially the tropical Atlantic Ocean, but even the tropical Pacific Ocean, which is by far the biggest ocean on the planet here. We've had considerable cooling over the last several months here. You can see the summary here, right here, shows that this tropical region, a very large departure from normal over the past year or so, it's lost about a half a degree Celsius during the past 12 months. And the tropics, very important, probably the most important part of the whole oceanic system around the planet here. That's where a lot of the energy, most of the energy is stored in the tropics. So what goes on in the tropics is very, very important. It's something that we like to closely monitor. Again, a lot of cooling off of the water temperatures during the past 12 months or so, especially in the tropics. Well, here we go again with some widespread chill. This time it's focused on the eastern third of the nation. Beginning over the past weekend, we had some mornings with numerous record lows or near record lows, and it first concentrated over the northern plains, upper Midwest, and kind of shifted eastward to the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and now it's throughout the eastern third of the nation. This is where we stand this morning with mostly near record low temperatures and with a couple embedded record low temperatures. You see right up here, this is Franklin, Pennsylvania, breaking the daily low temperature record, and all the way out here, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Elkhart, Indiana, breaking the daily record. Now, this map is from coolweather.com. The legend is down in this area here, and depending on what kind of a circle, what kind of color scheme it is, will tell you if it's breaking the daily temperature record or tying it or just within a few degrees. But this is a pretty good website to see something like this in this kind of a display here with record lows or near record lows, and of course the same goes true with record highs or near record highs. Now I want to show another website that has kind of similar information that you don't see elsewhere. This is from Penn State's eWall. If you just do a search on Penn State eWall, you'll get to their website, which is an excellent website, my alma mater, by the way. And this particular website has an interesting way to display near record lows or highs. In this particular case, this map is showing all those weather stations that are in the bottom 10% of temperatures in comparison with a 30-year time period. In other words, all of these stations showing up here are in the bottom 10% this morning of that low temperature. In some cases it's a record low, in other cases it's a near record low, but again it's at the bottom 10% from a historical basis here. And this kind of information not only on that cool weather site, but also here at Penn State's eWall. Well, let's get back to some more conventional maps here. This is from the 0Z run of the GFS, and we're looking at the next 10 days. This is a accumulated forecast map of rainfall amounts over the next 10 days. And we mentioned this yesterday, quite a dry scene here. When you go look at this, the southern half of the U.S., largely areas without any precipitation over the next 10 days. That is quite impressively dry throughout much of this region here. And one of the areas with exception, right here, where there will be some monsoonal moisture. That's moisture that kind of flows to the north from the eastern Pacific Ocean into western Mexico and then potentially into the Four Corners states. In this particular setup here, over the next 10 days, it looks like New Mexico and Colorado will get the benefit of these monsoonal rains, which typically fall as afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms, especially in the higher terrain areas out in the Four Corners states. You also see a lot of precipitation right along the Carolina coastline and throughout the peninsula of Florida here. Again, much of at least the southern half of the nation without any rainfall at all over the next 10 days or so. Well, let's go through the 850 millibar temperature anomaly forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the GFS. Again, starting off with a lot of cooler than normal conditions across the eastern third of the nation. We showed earlier that several stations are within a few degrees of their record low temperatures for the day here on Tuesday. This kind of hangs around for a while here. And notice also we have this similar pattern that we've had for quite often over the summer season, in that cooler than normal air masses have pushed in from the eastern Pacific Ocean into California. That's kind of where we stand this morning, sandwiched in between some warmer than normal conditions over the Rocky Mountain states. Now, we'll push forward in time, and again, the cooler than normal conditions kind of hang on for a couple more days across the East Coast, and certainly out across California. This is going into the day on Thursday. Warmer than normal up across the northwestern part of the U.S. and the northern plains. And then we go into the end of the work week. Cooler than normal air mass, kind of a reinforcing shot for New England by the end of the week, still below normal across California and some of the western states here, but much warmer than normal across the central and northern plains. Now we'll go quickly ahead. And again, that cooler than normal air tends to want to hang on along the eastern seaboard. This is now all the way into the upcoming weekend and also across California. But in between, warmer than normal conditions out across the plains here. And that tends to expand a little bit by the time we get to early next week and intensify over the northern plains, the southern part of Canada. This is a week from right now, next Tuesday, September the 16th. A lot of warmer than normal conditions, especially over the central and northern plains, the Great Lakes region, and that warmer than normal pattern extends all the way up into the southern part of Canada. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the GFS. These maps available on tropicaltidbits.com. We've talked about this low pressure system sitting off the eastern seaboard with kind of an inverted trough or a coastal frontal boundary zone here that's pretty active. We highlighted this last week that watch out that this could back into the north and west, and indeed we'll see here over the next 24 hours or so, some of this moisture does back in to the eastern mid-Atlantic region here. This is by early tomorrow morning. Expect some showers, let's say from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City, eastward to the coastal sections, and the best chance for these showers will be along coastal New Jersey, Delmarva Peninsula, for example. Low pressure sitting off the coast, again, with the, you'll notice an east to northeast ocean flow of air really throughout the day today, but it kind of intensifies tonight and into the day on Wednesday, right here in the eastern mid-Atlantic region. So that coastal low indeed looks like it will throw some showers back into, potentially into the I-95 corridor region of the eastern mid-Atlantic. And then that pulls on out by the time we get to the day on Thursday. High pressure resumes control. This is high pressure to the north. Thursday is liable to be the warmest day of the week in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, probably highs on Thursday afternoon in those three urban areas, 80 to 83 degrees or so. Warmer than will be the case on Wednesday, because tomorrow we'll have plenty of clouds in the area because of that coastal low. And this high pressure system is likely to hang on through much of the upcoming weekend, but there is one system here that could play a role here during the latter half of the upcoming weekend, or maybe it'll hold off to Sunday night or so. There's kind of a wave here that will be dropping to the south and east, and the models are having a little bit difficult time depicting this. In this particular model run, it's over New England here by midday on Sunday. Earlier model runs have had it farther to the south and west over kind of the central mid-Atlantic region by late Sunday night. Just something we'll keep an eye on. There is an upper level trough associated with this area of showers here. So that high pressure system could stay in control right into the upcoming weekend, whether it hangs on in control through Sunday night time frame. A little too early to say. There's, again, that possibility of a disturbance causing some showers somewhere in the northeastern states, probably somewhere late Sunday, or Sunday night time frame. And again, still some frontal boundary zone hanging off the eastern seaboard with low pressure in that area. Again, tomorrow, coastal low will throw showers back into the eastern mid-Atlantic region. And today, another comfortable dry day, comfortably cool start to the day, but comfortable this afternoon with high temperatures generally in the 70s throughout the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. and a dry look to much of the nation over the next 10 days or so. That's it for now. For ArcFieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.